So here's something really interesting. Did you know that Israel leads the list as the most times a foreign country has come to address Congress in a joint session? So we've had foreign dignitaries show up and speak to Congress over 100 times. It's been going on. The first one was Hawaii, back when Hawaii was its own country and it wasn't part of the United States. That was back in 1874. That is when this joint session inviting foreign leaders to come speak. That's when it started. Since then, it's happened about 120 times. But Israel, interestingly, out of all the nations on earth, out of all of our allies, Israel's been invited more than any other single nation. Just doing a little bit of digging on that. And Netanyahu, by the way, is the leader who's been individually invited the most. So Netanyahu, and then Israel has had 6 other times where other leaders have shown up. But I just wanted to share with you this little bit of history because I found it interesting as I was kind of researching into this. But as it stands, France has shown up 9 times, been invited 9 times, United Kingdom 8 times, Mexico 7 times, South Korea 7 times, India 6, Italy 6, Ireland 6, Germany, including West Germany and Unified Germany 5, Australia 4, Canada 3 times, Argentina 3, Philippines 3, Japan 3 times, Spain twice, and Ukraine twice. But Israel, interestingly, 10 times has been invited to speak. You know, we always hear that Israel's our greatest ally. I still don't fully understand what the alliance exactly is. Israel's not our largest trading partner. They've literally never shown up for any of our numerous endless wars. They did give orange juice to South Korea during the Korea War, but that's been it. Otherwise, I'm not 100% certain where this idea that they are our greatest ally to the point where they would be invited 10 times. Look, I don't really have much more to say about this. I just wanted to kind of bring it up and point it out that that does seem interesting or odd or however you want to look at it. I would assume that we would have invited more to our joint sessions, our actual allies that we have actual on paper signed alliances with. I would say Israel, we have a special relationship with of some kind, but I wouldn't say they're our greatest ally like what we're hearing so often by the politicians and in the news. I would think United Kingdom would be our greatest ally, France. I mean, there's plenty of, I would think that we would invite Mexico more often and even Canada. Canada's only been on the list 3 times. It seems like we'd want our neighbors, to be friendly with our neighbors and have them talk and to Congress about how we could better our relationships and our trade agreements. And it's interesting that no one really from the global South has been invited, except for Mexico has been invited 7 times. But other than Mexico, we don't have any coming. Well, I guess Argentina's on that list 3 times. But, there's a lot of other countries that I would think we'd want to hear from. We'd want to strengthen relationships with. But nonetheless, it's Israel. Israel's been invited 10 times. That's all I really wanted to say about that. Just wanted to point it out. I just think that's interesting and something that we Americans should be aware of so that we can look more into it and ask some questions of our congressional leaders. Where exactly are their priorities? I want to move on to Jill Stein. So Jill Stein tweeted this out. This is after Netanyahu's address to Congress. And she says, AIPAC should be required to register as a foreign agent. That would effectively shut down the inordinate influence that AIPAC has on behalf of the state of Israel. She's not wrong, but let's go ahead and play for you a part. She actually then posted a video with this, so let's watch that.
AIPAC should be required to register as a foreign agent. And that would effectively shut down the inordinate influence that AIPAC has on behalf of the state of Israel. And unfortunately, because of the inordinate amount of money, I think it's $100 million that AIPAC is spending in this election, we do not have an adequate discussion and a debate because it's become politically toxic to even speak out about this critical war. According to the journal The Lancet that just published last week, it's more like 180-some thousand that are actually being killed in this war. Innocent children and elders and people right now who should not be the victim of this horrific, absolutely horrific and shameful war. It should be stopped immediately. Joe Biden can do that with a phone call to Bibi Netanyahu.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill.
Jill Stein, I mean, absolutely a hero in this. She's the only candidate who is definitively against this war, absolutely wants to see the end of Israel's oppression of the Palestinian people and the onslaught in Gaza. She is just a real fighter. Absolutely love Jill Stein. There have been some responses to this, though. So Jill Stein says AIPAC should, and a lot of people are saying this, AIPAC should have to register as a foreign agent. Well, here's the typical criticism, and I want to go over this. Here's Rosenblatt saying, except, this is a tweet as a response, except they're not foreign. They are Americans who value the relationship with Israel. Here's another one. This is from Teaching Mimi. AIPAC is an organization of American Jews and supporters, not a foreign government. In order for it to be a foreign agent, they have to be funded by a foreign government. Nice try, they say. That's interesting. Let's kind of talk about that for just a second here. What is it that, why the, okay, I get that it is Americans who are funding AIPAC, and then AIPAC goes around and influences our politicians. And so maybe that makes it difficult to get AIPAC to be registered as a foreign, because once you're looking at the actual details and the legality of it, we might not be able to do it. But let's have a bigger conversation about this. This should be culturally and socially unacceptable to Americans. For other Americans, and it's not just American Jews who are in support of Israel. We'll go over some other examples of this, but there's two groups that we can talk about when it comes to Americans advocating for some sort of foreign aid or foreign intervention by American government. So they're lobbying our American government not to spend money on Americans, not to build America, but to benefit a foreign country, to ultimately benefit a foreign country. That should be socially and culturally unacceptable in the United States. We should consider that dual loyalty. That is exactly what that is. If you're an American Jew, and you believe, and I see this all the time on social media. In fact, let me just read one of, I don't have the tweet that I could show you, but I'll just read this to you. This was from Olia. She says, I'm a single issue voter. I will never vote for a candidate who doesn't support Israel and Jewish people. For me, it's about safety and survival of myself, my family, and my people. Nothing else can trump that. The choice is clear. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I voted for him in 2016 and 2020, and I'll vote for him again in November of 2024. Now, this is an American who's obviously able to vote in American elections, right? So she's saying, I'm a single issue voter. I'm going to vote for whoever supports Israel. For me, it's about, this is what she says, it's about safety and survival of myself, my family, and my people. How absolutely insulting is that to the American people? I am sorry, but that is just so fundamentally un-American, anti-American, and insulting for somebody to say, for a fellow American to say, I don't trust you. I want another country. Because one day I believe you are going to turn on me and I'm going to need to run off to this other country. So because I don't trust you deep down, I have this deep-seated mistrust of you. I think you're going to turn and you're going to one day want to lock me up and kill me off like the Holocaust 2.0, right? So what I need you to do is to take your American tax dollars and build me another country for me, for my safety, because I don't trust you. How is that even remotely appropriate or even remotely accepted in this country? That sort of thinking that I don't trust my fellow Americans, so I want my fellow Americans to spend their hard-earned dollars and build me another country for me to run away to that you won't be able to run. And it's not just, think about the other options. It's not just about thinking Americans are going to turn on them. Right? Maybe there's something else. Like, what about a crisis of economy? What if the United States goes into nuclear war and we've got a war going on between Russia and the United States, or China and the United States, or we've got an economic collapse and we're all starving and we're standing in bread lines. And then you've got an entire population of people that are able to run off to another country while the rest of us have to just tough it out as Americans should. We're here in it together, except for you. You get to go somewhere else and run off to your safe haven while we suffer. I mean, that is so fundamentally un-American. I don't even know what else. So when there's this, oh, you're lobbying these anti-Semitic, this is the dual loyalty narrative is anti-Semitic. No, has nothing to do with being Jewish or a Semite, or this is, you couldn't say any other country. If a group of Chinese Americans said, we want you guys to spend American dollars to build up China because we don't fundamentally trust you for one, we think you're going to, or Japanese, like this would be a better example, right? Because it actually happened to them. So the Japanese Americans saying, you know what? We're lobbying. We're going to lobby hard. In fact, we're going to pay off every single American politician to ensure that they give a ton of money to Japan and a lot of military support to Japan because we Japanese don't fundamentally trust you. We think you're going to lock us into internment camps. If something, like if war breaks out with China, you'll look at us and you'll think you guys are Asian too. I can't tell the difference between you Japanese and Chinese. So we're going to have to lock you all up in internment camps or something, like some kind of crazy narrative. And then they say, so we want Japan to be strong so that when shit hits the fan here in the United States, we got somewhere else to go. Sorry about the rest of you. I mean, that is just so fundamentally un-American. So and this isn't the only example of this. It's not just, I would say that the culture inside of, and this is something that needs to be corrected, I would say inside of Jewish American culture. And I've criticized plenty of other cultures in this country. Black American culture has some issues that they need to correct inside of their society, inside of their communities. That is something we talk about openly. We don't shy away from that. But then suddenly when we need to talk about a culture issue inside of the Jewish American community, it's anti-Semitic to say this. It's well, of course, if you criticize the Black American, yeah, you will be called racist, I guess, right? Even if you're trying to actually point out a serious, a legitimate issue that needs that should be addressed inside of the community in order to better, for the ultimate benefit of the community. Same. So I guess whatever, it's fair. Call me an anti-Semite, but the Jewish American community has a problem inside the Jewish American community of a dual loyalty narrative that they're teaching the youth. They've all been born, they're all kind of born into this culture of Israel's our home. We love Israel. They're taught that they have like a serious affinity for Israel. And I understand that from maybe a historical and biblical perspective. But for it to then be taught that we need to fund Israel, spend a bunch of money and lobby the American government, which is supposed to be our home country. We're going to lobby that government in order to give a ton of money to our real home. That culture has got to change because it is breeding anti-Semitism. Because people are looking, at these posts on social media where you've got a bunch of American Jews saying, I don't trust you people and I want a place to run off to. And the rest of us are offended by that. And it creates anti-Semitism. That is what it's harmful for the Jewish population for this to be continued to be pushed and taught inside of the American Jewish community. It has to end. You have to be with us or not with us. You can't just be half with us as Americans. And then, well, we got this other place to run off. No, I'm an American. I really love American. I'll totally fight for it. But if crap happens, I got somewhere else to go. That is totally unacceptable to the rest of us who have nowhere else to go. This is it for us. We're here. We're here to build. We're here to make a great country. And you're either in it with us or you're not. And that's got to be the mentality. And they're not the only ones. I would say it's the most egregious. I'm going to give you a couple more examples, but I would say it's the most egregious because because of the attitude behind it of fundamentally, I don't trust you. So I need another place to go in case you turn on me, right? That to me is a highly divisive, and that sort of suspicious attitude is very divisive. Here's another example, though, that I want to show you. So this is Cuban-Americans. Now, Cuban-Americans in Florida, and they've got a lot of power, too. This is a very powerful group, a lot of politicians we've seen. So it's not just Israel and the AIPAC lobby that has a lot of power. There's also a lot of Cubans, and you see all of these presidential candidates trying to get that Florida vote, and they kowtow to whatever the Cuban-Americans want. And that has led to decades and decades and decades of sanctions on Cuba. Even though Castro is dead, his brother's dead, they're all dead. There's no Castro in charge in Cuba. That was the idea. Oh, when Castro goes, then we'll lift the sanctions. Well, Castro's gone and then didn't lift the sanctions. And then the other Castro's gone and didn't lift, so it's just, and why is that? Because there's a bunch of Cuban Americans who are supposed to be America first. And what do they advocate for? Regime change in Cuba. They want a bunch of American effort, money, our foreign policy to surround around a foreign country, rather than, once again, building this country, rather than saying, hey, listen, yeah, we escaped that country. Thank God, here we are. We're happy to be here. We're proud to be Americans, and we want to build up America. Too bad what's going on in Cuba. They should, the people there, if they want to fix it, they should fix it. Instead of that attitude, it's do something, spend American dollars, spend American time and energy, do something. We want Castro, we want regime change. So they're advocating for our hard-earned American dollars to basically be offshored toward a pet project. Because what does it matter to you or me? I mean, I'm not Cuban, you're not Cuban, right? If you are Cuban, maybe this matters to you, but then it's just you who this matters to. It doesn't matter to the rest of us. It's a pet project. So rather than benefiting the majority of America, this is something that is just benefiting a small group of Americans, a small percentage of Americans, and yet advocating to spend our American tax dollars on that pet project. So it's coming from a bit of a different place. It's not, we don't trust you, so we want you to spend money to to topple this regime so that Cuba can flourish and be wonderful again, so that because I need a safe place to run off to. So it comes from a slightly different emotional place, which is why I do think it's worse to actually be accusatory towards the rest of us, saying like, I don't trust the rest of you, and so I need another place. I think that's like the most offensive, but it is still pretty bad to say, to what exactly are you saying? So you're saying, we want you to topple this other regime so that why? So that Cuba can be rebuilt and be wonderful again. So that why? Because you're going to go back to your real home because you're not actually an American. That's what you're saying. I mean, what are you implying there? What is it? Because you love your family members and you just want them to be free and safe, and that's why it's a little bit of a it isn't so clear. Why are Cuban Americans wanting Cuba to make Cuba great again? Is it because they themselves want to go back, or is it because they just want their families to be happy and healthy and prosperous? It's one of the two. But either way, it's advocating for our American dollars to go somewhere to a pet project. Here's another one: Iranian Americans. There are a lot of Iranian Americans who call for a regime change in Iran. They want war with Iran. They essentially want war with Iran. They're advocating for a pet project. Once again, doesn't matter to the vast majority of us, but they want their home country to have a regime change so that why? If you're an American and you're here, what do you care about that country? I don't care about Vietnam at all. I mean, do I want my family members to be safe and healthy and happy in Vietnam? Of course. I have a lot of love for my family members who I still talk to and we see regularly that are in Vietnam. I want them to be healthy and happy, but I don't care about Vietnam at all. That is up to them to fix. If the Vietnamese people want a different government, they will figure it out. They're adults. They've got big boy pants. They're smart. They know how to do it. They don't need me or America to go in there, which already was tried, didn't work. They don't need America to go in there and rescue them. They're adults. They can handle it. So what do I care about? I care about America. And my Vietnamese family here in the United States cares about America. I don't really see this happen as much maybe because the war already happened and maybe because they'd already kind of been there, done that. I don't see the Vietnamese American community advocating for regime change in Vietnam. I'm sure there are some groups, and I find that un-American and ungrateful. If you're here in this country, then you got to be an American. Tried and true. Red, white, and blue. You got to be an American. You cannot be advocating for your neighbors' hard-earned dollars when they have nothing to do with Cuba or Iran or Israel or Vietnam or China, anywhere. They have nothing to do with any of that. And you're advocating by going to our government and saying, I want you to spend his money, Bob's money, on my pet project of toppling a regime or building me a safe haven. I just find this guy's so fundamentally un-American. I just find it really so fundamentally un-American. And it's something that we should culturally start shaming. I mean, we really should say, look, no, guys, you're in America. You got to we do have to have an American first mentality. We are a country that is filled with people coming from all over the world, and that is a wonderful thing. But when you get here, you got to be here. You got to be American, and you got to love this country, and you got to want to build this country. And this country's got a lot of problems, and we're falling apart at the seams in a lot of ways, and our infrastructure is deteriorating, and yet people are still advocating for money to go to these foreign pet projects. That should be, quite frankly, I think shamed in this country. That's what I actually think. Hey guys, this was just a clip of a longer show. Catch the full show by going to KimIversonShow.com. It is free. It airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You could go back now and watch this full interview. I highly recommend it. Again, go to KimIversonShow.com. Thank you so much for watching.